The rise of mobile technology has profoundly disrupted traditional filmmaking, sparking intense debates on creative value and artistic expression. Amid this transformation, Max, founder of the MINA Festival and a pioneering force behind international mobile screenings, embraced mobile imaging. He redefined smartphone filmmaking, built a global platform for innovators, and ignited a worldwide creative movement centered on mobile devices. A true visionary, he shapes the future of digital storytelling.
Because in this world that we live in, with all the social media, the live streaming, the online environment, and video is becoming more and more important. So I think moving into the 21st century is not only about storytelling, but it's also digital literacy. And so I think that is something when you can do with smartphone filmmaking and mobile storytelling in a very advantageous way.
Max pioneered mobile filmmaking as early as 2007. Creating his groundbreaking work Max Schleser with a Nokia phone, establishing himself as a visionary in the field.
The Nokia phone was like a 3GP video file, so it was very tiny.
Okay.
And when you import the tiny file into your nonlinear editing program, I really liked the look. It was, you know, film has a materiality, film has this texture.
Yeah.
And for me, the pixel was very exciting. It looked very rough. So I didn't try to make this film like I'm filming with a traditional camera. I tried to really say this is a very digital film. This is like the new way of filmmaking.
I think it's like being a pioneer in the mobile video shooting industry.
Yes, I mean, I got very passionate about this.
But the most difficult thing? What is the most difficult thing because filming with a Nokia, like.
And at that time it was very new, so there was very different ways of editing the project. And so for me, the difficult thing was finding a reference point. It took almost a year and a half, 2 years to edit. But I think then it was the way that I was quite happy with it, yeah.
In January 2013, I arrived at the Jersey Shore, 3 months after the Frankenstorm hit the East Coast. At first I was fascinated by the landscape, but then I discovered the situation of the people.
The interesting thing about is this feature film is when you look at it, you might think, oh, it looks like a very much a traditional documentary. But the pre-production really happened within 4 days.
So only 4 days?
Only 4 days. So what happened is I was a visiting research fellow at Monmouth University, and I arrived in the Jersey Shore. And you know, one day I went for a walk by the beach in the winter, and suddenly I could see all these mountains of rubble. And I was like, oh my God, what happened here? And then I took a drive across the community, and some places were very much intact, like normal, and some other places were completely destroyed. And I didn't really hear about this hurricane that arrived around Halloween. That's why it's called Frankenstorm. And I was doing some project with the students. I wanted to inspire them to make smartphone films. And so when I came to the first class, I said, guys, what's all this wood there? And they started talking about the experience from the hurricane that arrived and how it destroyed the community and how some people are in a different environment still. And I said, film about this. And they were like, yes, you have to go there, you have to go there.
But this movie, Frankenstorm, was broadcasted on television?
Yeah.
But did the producer were concerned about the quality of the footage? Because television is always considered as standard,
At that time, I think for Canterbury TV, it had broadcasting standards, and the topic was more important than. There is a little bit overexposure here in the background of the image, but there is someone sitting in a car telling you a story, how they sit in the car because their house is lost and they don't know where to go. So you don't really care if it's overexposed. And so that for me was like the idea of, sometimes as a filmmaker, you come and you say, okay, I want this shot, here's my shooting list, da-di-da, boop, 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 finished. But this was like having a conversation with the community and giving the authority that the filmmaker normally has to decide what goes into the film to the community. I want to emphasize when people ask me, so Max, which is the best smartphone to use? My answer is always the one that you get in your pocket.
Max's groundbreaking works, from Max with a K-tie to Frankenstorm, not only broke new ground in mobile visual aesthetics, but also ignited a global wave of smartphone creativity. Through his filmmaking, research, and worldwide advocacy, he has foreseen the future of mobile media and image creation.
Sean Baker made a film, Tangerine, which went to all the independent film festivals, and he didn't even tell anyone that it was filmed on a smartphone. And there was a Korean filmmaker that won the Berlinale for a smartphone short film. But I really wanted to say there are some very prominent filmmakers, but there's also some mobile storytellers and smartphone filmmakers that decided to only work with mobile phones and smartphones.
Apple's released the iPhone 15 Pro supporting log format recording. So that was like a kind of revolution? Or how do you...
And what excites me the most about the log mode is that there are some particular softwares that you can color match the footage of a smartphone with the Sony camera or red Nikon camera. So that means there's certain environments. For me, the most interesting thing is when you make a smartphone film, how can you make a film or film a scene with a smartphone that another camera, a broadcasting camera, couldn't do it? So that might be space confinements, because you can work. And even if you get the SmallRig cage, it gives you a good, stable image, and you can still work. You can move much faster, and so I really enjoy working with SmallRig. I think it works very well for me. I mean, even for professional environment, there's just some ND filters, so it's sort of like the sunglasses for your smartphone, so to say.
But for you, using these external tools is a way to push the smartphone into becoming like a professional equipment, or it's just a way to create something new, a new environment?
It is a community celebration, and there was a Salako community, and there's sort of like a Dayak, so indigenous people in Borneo, Sarawak, Malaysia, and they had these amazing costumes with some feathers. And so then I started to do the whole project, and I actually realized that when you are in a longhouse with a celebration with dancing, lots of people around me, I could just hold the phone in front of me, and that was a good way to check and film.
Like your third eye.
Yes, so you don't, you in a very respectful way you engage, so people asked me to dance, which, is not a good thing to do, but I had my phone and I could dance with the people on the phone and so be part in the celebration and film the celebration.
Yeah, it feels like a traditional equipment, like, guys, I'm coming. It's like,
you don't want to be like, okay, guys, can you stop this? Can we just, get camera one here and, action? No, we just, you're part of the group and share the moment as you experience it.
Talking about innovation, you are the founder of, how to say that, MINA or MINA?
Well, I always say, it's a good question. I always say MINA, Mobile Innovation Network and Association.
So what is it about?
For us, we want to run a smartphone film festival.
Okay.
So the spotlight is on films only produced with mobile phones or smartphones. It's now the longest running smartphone film festival in the Southern Hemisphere.
Okay.
We are in the 14th year. And for me, it's always very important when you show a smartphone film and when you talk about the smartphone film, it's sometimes compared to a project that was filmed in an industry context. And so for me, the idea was when you have a mobile phone film or a smartphone film, an image story, we need to compare this to another image story to really understand where the contributions are and what the specificity about this project is. And so I think that lifts the whole game up. And so there is now lots of smartphone film festivals around the world, which I think is really interesting to see.
So you are doing some exploration, like documentary, experimental, abstract filmmaking. So wow, that's a lot of innovation.
But I think there's also a scene now developing internationally that has its own festivals all around the world. That has its own community, and people are connected online. I think that's very inspiring for me to see. This community is thriving. So lots of my work these days is to build festivals, but also have a meeting point for smartphone filmmakers around the world, where we get together and talk about exactly these questions. What's the latest trends? Where are we going with this field? Because I think it's not only about one person who changed it or shaped it, but it's about this community. And what I really enjoy about the mobile storytelling and smartphone filmmaking community, it's very open.
So I love what you're doing with MINA and then all the other festivals around the world. My only concern, my question, it's not a concern, it's like when you had a festival, you have billions of submissions. How many submissions have real content value and how many are just an exercise for trying to gain traction on internet?
Very interesting question.
Okay,
so in another edited collection, which is called Mobile Story Making in an Age of Smartphones, I think about the way that is nowadays not only longer storytelling, but it's story making. I think nowadays, which for instance SmallRig was talking about the panel about working with user groups in a very co-creative way, we can, even as filmmakers, test some ideas in the communities. We can test some ideas with different festivals. And once you have some feedback, which might be the algorithm or it might be at the festival verification, you can then produce these works. If you're a smartphone filmmaker, it might be a nice thing to go for some smartphone film festivals. And then if you had some good recognition, you can maybe go to a bigger festival. So it's making sure you choose the right avenue for your distribution, you choose the right avenue for your examination. I think the online space is also very interesting. We're just trying to really understand how these algorithms work, but there are some really interesting experiments being done. And so I think for me, it's really interesting to see at the festival yesterday that there was a launch of the Research Institute. And so I think the Global Image Scene Research Program, I think that is a fantastic initiative that will really drive these questions because we need makers, we need industry, and we need a festival together to discuss how is this going to work.
So I have a technical question.
Yes.
If you watch a movie or a video, and can you say from your professional point of view, if you watch this video, can you immediately say, okay, it's made with a smartphone or it's made with traditional equipment? Are you able, not me as a viewer, but you?
I think I can, but it's getting more and more tricky.
So the boundary is more and more thin.
There is a colleague in Australia, Darcy, who made a film, One Punch, and he won the cinematographer awards from Victoria, Tasmania Cinematography Guild.
Because still we have people not complaining, how can we say, arguing the smartphone cinematography, anyway, it's not real cinematography.
Well, I think what I always say, and it's the first sentence on the back of this book, is not every film has to be a smartphone film. But if you're working with community, if you want to capture a location, the smartphone should be a camera.
Or maybe the moment, because maybe you are leaving a moment and you cannot say, okay, stop the moment, I want to get the camera coming.
Exactly. The most important thing for the smartphone filmers, we try to understand what is your creative voice. Who are you as a filmmaker? How will you differentiate yourself from all the other filmmakers? And that happens through experimentation. And so the idea of experimentation is what we do as creative arts researchers. We not only look at the outcome, the film, but we also engage in the process. When you think about storytelling, you always think back about certain traditions in filmmaking. And there is always a sort of traditional mainstream, that is normally what Hollywood used to do, but there's so many more other approaches.
Now we have all these content creators because we have all these platforms, we are interconnected now. So you have YouTube there, and you have in China, for example, Bijan, and then you have Douyin and TikTok, and then you have Xiaohongshu or Instagram, and then Facebook. So we have a lot of platforms. And a lot of even the young generation, they believe, okay, I had a phone, I want to create content. As a professor, would you recommend them to study?
But now with all these new platforms, with all these new content opportunities, there is, I think, a space opening up for emerging filmmakers to think, yes, you can work in a traditional environment, but maybe there's also some new space that you can do some content. And video is becoming more and more important. So there's also some great opportunities to create videos for various types of businesses, for advertisement, and that maybe funds a film that you want to do.
So is there a piece of suggestion that you want to say to the future content creator about their competencies? is just one, not too many, something that you really recommend them to do if they want to become content creators?
Yeah, I think find the one element that you're very passionate about and then try to create that topic, that experience, that film, and keep doing exactly that particular style. You need to sort of understand how you differentiate yourself from anyone else. And so I quite like the SmallRig Free Your Dream idea,
Okay.
because your dream is your story. Think about your passion, because the passion will drive. Filmmaking is hard work,
Yeah.
you know?
Yes,
And
I know.
you sometimes have to spend long hours.
I mean, I do television, it's basically related.
And the more you have the passion for this one particular voice in filmmaking, that will support your future trajectory.
If you were to distill a survival guide for image creators in 2025 into one sentence, what the sentence would be?
I think it's a SmallRig logo that just I realized at the end of yesterday, which is, free your dream, and your dream is your story.
Okay.
See it, change it.